Hi there, Graham Vincent, violin maker and musician. Busy weekend at the moment coming up, so I thought I'd make a quick video to answer a fairly important question that was asked recently on one of the videos, and that was, is it possible to make a living as a violin maker? And it certainly is, and it is how I make my living. So let me just run through my situation. And I mean, I don't want to give away all of my financial sort of circumstances and all the rest of it, obviously. I think you'll understand that, but I will be completely honest about that which I do touch on. Okay, so here we go. Yeah, I mean, I've been making violins for a few years in a non-professional capacity. This last year is the first year when it has been my entire sort of means of self-support, really. And I have made slightly more than the national average income. So that's the bottom line. There are a whole number of ways in which violin makers make money. A lot of violin makers end up doing sort of violin dealing and restoration. I decided that was like a whole additional skill set, and I would concentrate on just learning how to make violins properly and just making new violins, and that's what I've done. I've sold quite a few, and one of you probably know also that I'm a musician as well. So yes, I do get a few £1,000s in a year as a musician. Not an inconsequential amount, but not enough to live on in itself. But there is a glorious relationship between the two for me, in that it's like the best form of marketing for my violins. When people see me playing, they talk to me and they find out I'm playing one of my violins. They then learn all about me as a maker. And you know, just a classic example of that happened this last weekend. We played, I think we played 3 gigs this last weekend. I had a really good weekend. It was great fun. And on one of those gigs, a lady came up and said, you know, absolutely wonderful, or blah blah blah, and basically quickly came around to the idea that, you know, this was something that she could do, because she'd you know, she'd played the violin at school. She had the grounding of what was needed to be a folk violin player, and I think she was kind of looking for something to do, something meaningful in life. I mean, she's got a wonderful life set up by the look of it already, but I think she was looking for that additional creative piece, and so she ended up buying a violin from me. So yeah, that's an example of that holistic kind of musician and violin maker kind of approach that I've managed to put together. I don't charge much for my violins, it has to be said. When I look at the prices that many violin makers charge, I'm not quite sure that there must be a relationship between the price and how many you can sell. I think below a certain price, and people will probably question the quality of your violins. Above a certain price, and fewer and fewer people can afford them, I think. So I just opted for, rather than looking at a violin and saying, what do I think I could get for it? Because quite a lot of my violins I look at and think, well, I know a lot of people will be charging a lot more than I am for this violin. But I tend to go, what do I need to earn from the time that I took to make this violin? So that's the approach that I take to pricing. On the marketing front as well, I mean, obviously there's my online presence. My online presence makes a difference. I have had, you know, some sales from that as well. Although, having said that, the YouTube videos tend to be watched more by people who are interested in making violins, and so sales don't tend to come from people who watch me on YouTube. So that's just the way it goes. Why do I do the YouTube videos? I do them because I like doing them, and you know, sometimes I like to think I've got some useful information which I can share with people. But there we go. I'm straying off topic. So yeah, other violin makers, as I say, will tend to do sort of dealing and restoration as well. And then, of course, that you can augment your dealing by the whole world of bows as well. I think most people kind of categorise themselves as bow makers and restorers, or violin makers and restorers, or indeed, like myself, violin maker. The reason I'm in the car at the moment driving is I'm just popping to see a friend of mine who is an excellent violin bow maker. That's Glenn Titmus down in Devon. Indeed, I've had one of his bows, and I'm borrowing some bows off him because I have a stall tomorrow at a fiddle day up country, and I'm going to take some of his bows with me, so that I have an offering, you know, to make my stall more attractive. So not only will I have several of my violins for sale, but I will also have some bows for people to try as well. Obviously, I'll put a small markup on those, so it gives me the potential to earn a little bit more. That in fact is a new experiment for me. I've never done that before, so we'll see how that goes. We'll see whether it makes the stall more interesting. The other thing I'm doing for this particular stall, which I've never done before, is because I've got 3 violins in the workshop at the moment that are nearly finished, I need new strings for them. So I've bought some really nice, fairly well-known strings, you know, Eva Perazzi strings, which people tend to like to buy. They've arrived already. I haven't opened them. I'll take them with me, and I'll put them on the stall as well with a reasonable markup on them. So I need them anyway. So it's money that I had to spend anyway, and this just gives me the option of earning, you know, another 10 or 15 or 20 quid per set. Anyway, so yeah, that's just another thing. What else? I mean, I do know some people who call themselves violin makers who effectively trained as violin makers, didn't do much violin making, and just moved straight into restoration. I know several people like that, and have you know, created a very, you know, well, I don't know about very well paid, but a reasonably well paid sort of life for themselves, just doing, you know, the sort of repairs and maintenance of school violins, and the sort of better amateur sort of violins and what have you. So that's certainly one option. There's sorry, I'm trying to drive at the same time, so I'm concentrating a little bit on the road, so this is turning into a bit of a ramble. So probably I ought to go back to the core subject, which was how do I make a living, and I think I've pretty much covered that really. I keep the prices of my materials down. As you know, I'm dead keen on using sort of recycled timber and so on, so I'm always on the lookout for good quality timber to use, which may come from furniture, which may come from sort of reclamation centres, or indeed from timber merchants. I prefer using sort of reclaimed stuff rather than new. That helps keeping the price down, but at the same time, in the same way that the price does affect sort of people's perception of the violin, just if you consider the difference in cost of raw materials, you know, for the back and sides, between a very plain looking ordinary set of timber and a really top of the range set, it may only be £100, but it might make £1,000 a difference to the value of the finished violin, simply because of how it looks, not because of how it sounds. You've got to be a little bit careful not to cut yourself short with using decent looking raw materials, and I must admit I do feel I've done that on a number of occasions. But there we go. And also, I mean, if you've watched any of my videos, you'll know that I really thoroughly enjoy experimenting with different materials. I mean, alongside all of the reclaimed timber, I've been experimenting with alternatives to ebony, as you know, and I'm pretty sure I've landed on a very nice one now, which I'm very happy with. And also, obviously, there was the 2 balsa wood violins that I made. They're the 2 lightweight lime wood violins that I finished recently as well. One of which has sold, the other one is still with me, so I'm hoping to sell that in the fairly near future. I've had one person who came that close to buying it, but didn't buy it in the end. So yeah, I think anyway, this is turning into too much of a ramble. I will end it there, I think, but I hope that answers that question. Yeah, next video I would imagine will be back in the workshop. Like I say, I'm working on 3 violins at the moment, and they're starting to look really quite interesting, so I'll do a video with them. Anyway, signing off, look after yourselves. Cheers folks, bye.